This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Welcome to Holocron History, Star Wars Canon versus Legend. Join us as we take a deep dive into the lore of the Star Wars universe.
Oh, that's me. Hello, and welcome to the Holocron Histories podcast, where we talk about Star Wars canon versus legends. I'm one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm your other host, Brandon, or also known as Ben of Temeria.
Yeah, and we are here to talk about... Oh, we crashed again. It looks like it. Oh, nope, we're back again. Anyway, it looks like we're here to talk about the Convocation of the Force, which I guess is about all the different beliefs.
There's a lot of different beliefs of the Force, and we get all this through the High Republic novels, and oh boy, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's disconnected, reconnect. Freaking OBS and Twitch do not like each other at all.
That's weird because OBS is designed for Twitch.
Oh, I know. It might be a Twitch thing, but anyway. So yeah, we are talking about the Convocation of the Force, also known as simply as the Convocation. Or the Force Convocation, which was an adversary body and council designed to promote understanding between the various Force religions based on the desert moon Jeddah during the High Republic era, which you might know Jeddah if you play the Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We actually go and visit Jeddah.
Or, more famously, in Rogue One.
Or in Rogue One, yeah, that's true too. We also go to Rogue One, yeah.
That's where we first see it.
Yes, that's true. That's where we first see Jeddah, and then we finally revisit it later, a decade later in a game.
Yeah.
So, formed a few years before 382 BBY, religions with representatives on the Convocation included the Disciples of the Wills, the Falahansi, the Lonto, the Matukai, the Jedi Order, which we will not go over the Jedi Order in this episode because we've gone over the Jedi before and way back in, I think, in like episode 2 or 3 of the podcast, which, they're the Jedi.
You could redo it. It's been long enough. You could revisit.
It's been 2 years. Almost 3 years. Guardians of the Wills, the Church of the Force, and the Sorcerers of Tune. Shortly into the existence, the Convocation was chaired by Representative Kalan Tadara of the Church of the Force.
So a lot of these were
newish.
A lot of them come in legends. So the Falanasi are legends. The Makutai are also legends, I'm pretty sure. Yes. All of these Guardians and Disciples of the Wills, some of them have to be. Yes.
I think the Church of the Force was legends at one point, I believe.
Disciples of the Wills is not legends.
Oh, canon only.
But the Guardians are also only canon. I guess it was just a thing, but the Church of the Force might probably be Nope,
I can't
just
remember.
canon.
Just canon? Okay. Well, there's
Just canon.
some that were
There
both
you go.
canon legends and,
Yeah.
mainly canon. So, yeah, it's a bunch of different Force religions that are not the Jedi or the Sith, which is nice. So at the time, the Path of the Open Hand cult, a small religion based on the planet of Dalna, had no presence of Jeddah on Jeddah, but the Everneri follower Madaro wished to spread their word of the moon, enjoy the convocation as the Path's representative when Padawan Kevmo Zink suggested as such. Although the cult's leader, Electa Fazarno, I can't remember how they pronounce her name in the book, disapproved the idea. Former leader Reith Plo was intrigued and supported of spreading to Jeddah. And the Path of the Open Hand is a very interesting cult because they're the ones that eventually become the Nihil.
Oh, interesting. Well, see, the Path of the Open Hand is a monk subclass in D&D 5e.
Yes, it is.
And in Baldur's Gate 3, if you are just familiar with that.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah,
interesting to me.
They use the D&D subclass of the monk as the cult. But yeah, eventually that cult eventually does become the Nihil because a lot of this majority of this info is coming from Phase 2 of the High Republic, which was before the event. It's hundreds of years before the Phase 1. So it's like a prequel to Phase 1. So in 382 BBY, the Convocation planned to hold a festival known as the Festival of Balance in Jeddah City, which was projected to bring in a large amounts of tourists. The dock worker Perali commented on the festival to adjunct Keth Serapath during a particularly busy night at the Tap Bar Enlightenment, which both of the regulars of, however, Crodon minced. The bar's owner thought the festival would be a good for business. In the same year, the Yabakobi applied for membership on the council, but ultimately retracted their offer after a number of the current representatives attempt to attack the Yambaki envoys sent. So a lot happens in this stuff, and a lot of weird names, as you can tell, as me stumbling.
Mm-hmm.
So over a month later, after the Path left Dona, Ploth accompanied the Yana Ro and Radakazdab addressed the convocation, demanding the council to be dissolved after Laban's death during the Battle of Jeddah. Her aide, Ovala Zavaron, was expected to succeed her, but due to injuries Zavaron sustained during the battle, she was advised to return to Coruscant and recover, and the Jedi Vidal Mag took her place on the convocation. The former Guardian of the Wills, Trey Sirik, was also given a seat on the council and represent those who did not belong to any of the major Force factions. Okay, so that's the convocation. There's a lot there. There's you get a good sense of them during the book. It's actually an audiobook only. You can find it physically now. It's just the screenwrite of the audiobook, called The Battle of Jeddah. Star Wars, The High Republic, The Battle of Jeddah. So, really good audiobook, by the way.
It's interesting to me because this is exactly what happens when other religious groups, like especially in Christian history, tend to get together. It starts out nice and peaceful, and then
it becomes very violent.
Very fast.
Watch anything Assassin's Creed related or play the games, and it's pretty close.
Here is your fun religious history fact for the podcast. So, as most of you know, if you are a child or you have children who are listening, and we're going to talk about Santa Claus for a minute. So if there are things that
cup their ears.
So you don't just know. So Santa Claus wasn't a real person. Saint Nicholas was a real person in Christian history, and he lived during the 4th century. And he attended a big council called the Council of Nicaea, which is like it's called an ecumenical council, and they make big decisions concerning like what we believe. Like the doctrine of the Trinity begins to be formed at the Council of Nicaea. It's a lot of big decisions are happening. Well, there's two players, Athanasius and Arius. And Arius gets in there, and there is a rumor, a historical rumor, that St. Nicholas got so frustrated with Arius and his beliefs um, that he goes over and punches him in the face. So Santa Claus goes over and punches someone in the face.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see that, you just watch the Santa Claus movies with
Uh-huh.
Tim Allen. He does
Exactly.
that quite a bit.
So
It's fantastic.
it's nice to know that that Force religions also result to violence too.
Oh, absolutely. Who doesn't? um, so we are now going to dive into a little bit of each of the different Force religions. So we do have the Disciple Wills. So they were a Force worshipping organization whose members wore simple red robes. At the time the Operation Fracture, they were the oldest faith to still be active on Jeddah, although they were less demonstrably active in their practices than the Guardians of the Wills. Amber Trell, a male human, was a disciple. Sylvani Fast, which is a female member of the Onomid colony, and converted to the Disciple of Wills. They prefer to listen and try to understand the will of the Force, while the Guardian of the Wills prefer to sense the Force and its presence. They believe both the light and the dark side of the Force were valuable, believing for the light to exist, there must be dark, and that the Force must remain in balance. Which
So
is
I think
pretty typical right there, I think. Pretty
I
yin and
think
yang style.
yeah, we need to talk about who the Wills are
Yeah,
in
that's a good
Star
point.
Wars. So like
Yeah,
the
we haven't talked about them,
Wills,
have we?
yeah, the Wills are like George Lucas's like I want to say like they're almost like chroniclers of the Force. Like they're
Yeah,
not the Force itself, but like
they're think of Marvel terms, the Watchers.
yes,
Kind
similar,
that similar
kinda.
in that aspect, kind of.
Okay, so here's a real deep cut from our childhood. You remember Danny Phantom?
Oh, absolutely. I love
You
that show.
remember you remember the like movie special that they did with the time traveler or whatever, and there
Oh
was
yeah,
the
yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
like
And the
the
time
big
traveling ghost
like
baby, the baby
yeah,
that
and then but
constantly
there was the
changes.
the overall council that oversaw that.
Yes, yes,
That's the Wills. That's the Wills.
yeah. There you go. If nobody knows what we're talking about, go watch Danny Phantom. You can find it pretty much anywhere with Nickelodeon stuff.
Yes.
Great show, by the way. Love that
Uh-huh.
show. So the influential disciple Kozan Pell wrote a collection of the writings titled "The Collected Poems, Prayers, and Meditations of the Force." Cool. Among their practices on Jeddah was the act of collecting alms for the poor and singing their prayers at the Temple of Khyber. Additionally, the disciples ran and supported an orphanage that looked after many orphans that appeared in the wake of the escalating violence on Jeddah during the Imperial occupation. Kelly Grimm particularly cared for the orphanage. So, yeah. Very interesting. And yeah, as you can see, like with the Imperial occupation, the Disciple of Wills stayed long after the High Republic era. They're into the
Mm-hmm.
Imperial era, which is impressive alone, just as a Force religion, and the Empire hasn't snuffed them out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have the Fallen Hasi. The Fallen Hasi were a religious order that are adept in using the Force, which they viewed as a sea. They refer to the light side of the Force as the white current and the dark side as the dark tide. They were able to use the Force to create illusions or a projection of themselves that could appear anywhere in the galaxy. This technique was chronicled by an ancient Jedi masters in the sacred texts, in which they described as semi-futurist.
Mm-hmm.
The technique required to use require the user to pour their life essence into the cosmic force. The technique was used by Luke Skywalker at the Battle Crate to give the Resistance time to escape the First Order. Luke gave his life to complete the projection, which he disappeared into the Force. So that's something really cool that we actually do physically see in the films and everything.
So it's also a good kind of tie to Legends because Luke actually in Legends interacts with this cult. And like the illusions are a big play and they come into play in the Fate of the Jedi series, which is one of the last series that the Legends book authors got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it they like played on this whole like illusions kind of thing. And it was really interesting. But it's cool that it's this that Luke uses to do the astral projection.
Right, and we now
Mhm.
have like some background on it in canon that he just doesn't randomly do it, which is super nice. So next we have is the Lonto, which were also a species, which is really cool. So the Lonto were a sentient humanoid species with a powerful and unique connection to nature. They were culturally worshippers of the light side of the Force who devoted themselves to the good in the natural world. A species of Force users, the Lonto could use their power to grow and manipulate plants, utilizing them as both weapons and healing aids, which is pretty cool. So they're Force druids. Pretty much is what they are.
Yeah.
In 382 BBY, Cecily, representative of the Lonto on the Convocation of the Force, a council representative of the Force that we've talked about. And 229 BBY, the Lonto Lycos was a member of the Nihil Pirates Jedi Hunter group named the Children of the Storm. He controlled plants to fight Jedi in a battle on the planet of Balam. So, interesting. Getting into a little bit of the biology and appearance of them. The Lonto were a sentient humanoid species. They had pale green skin covered in vines or lines, brown or black hair, blue eyes, and pointed ears. Oh wow, they are really druids of the Force. They even have the pointy ears like elves. The Lonto were Force users who thought a mystical power could grow and manipulate plants. With their power, they could use plants or weapons, or as weapons, or protection. Blech, I can't talk today. And they could heal injuries with the use of the Tangela leaves. The Lonto were spiritual and worshipped the lights of the forest. They had a deep connection to the natural world, which they were very proud. They were devoted to channeling the power of the force for the good of nature. They believed that when a person died, they passed into a realm known as the Garden Beyond, which is, kind of similar to one with the Force, with the Jedi and all that. And then moving on to the Convocation, the Lonto had a long history with the Yakombi, a religion that was once affiliated with the dark side of the Force, but later denounced it. In the 382 BBY, a Lonto member socially represented them in the Convocation of the Force, a council, blah, 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 that we've gone over. In that year, the Convocation Chambers in Jedda's holy city socially restrained Falancy. Words are getting me today. I've been
Fallen
talking way too
Nazi.
much. Fallen Nazi, thank you.
Fallen Nazi.
Fallen Nazi represented Serene from attacking a Yakombi envoy who was attempting to petition for a seat in the Convocation by wrapping Sisine's body with vines. Oh, God. Susili defended the Yakombi, citing the history with the Lonto, but the Malachi, Representative Warren Vale, sliced the Solance's vines with an axe, upsetting her, knocking her off balance, and causing her to cry out. After the envoy retracted her pretension, Cecily decided that they should not discuss what happened to look the next day in the fresh perspective. When various artifacts began going missing across the holy city, Cecily suggested that it was the Spice Runners using them for collateral in their deals. And then Cecily later helped heal Jedi Master Vildar Mac's injuries that he sustained from the bombing of the Temple of the Kyber using tragic leaves, which she used with the Force to control and wrap around the body. She revealed that the archivist Zumeg had died in the explosion by telling Mac that he had passed into the garden beyond. Later, she was present at a meeting at the Convocation with Mac, where they discussed the potential perpetrators of the bombing, eventually deciding to present a cover story to the public that claimed a buildup of gas had caused it. Whew. Moving
okay
on
there?
with... Oh, yeah, I'm good. Moving on with the... Now going with the Path Open Hand with the Lanto. When Wreathplath and the Herald of the Path of the Open Hand, a cult disapproving of using the Force, petition for the Convocation to be disbanded and use the Force to be temporarily banned. He also accused the Lanto of abusing the Force. Cecily and Val defended the Lanto, insisting they only channel the Force for the good of the natural world. This is like the other thing with the Path. They they hate people using the Force, but there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of species and people that could use the Force. You can't just make them stop using it. That's just a part of them. They can do it. They can, that's it.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about it, but
Yeah, the weird. That's a cult. Very interesting cult. So shortly after, during the riots incited by Plath at the beginning of the Battle of Jeddah, Cecily was mentally disturbed by the presence of the Leveler, a nameless creature used by the Path that preyed upon the Force senses and caused them to hallucinate. As a result, Cecily began attacking many citizens with her vines, while proclaiming that she was protecting the peace in the light. Jedi Master Liban attempted to talk her down, but failed. When a member of the Path fell, Ix later explained the cult's motives to stop the Jedi to Padawan Rupert Natani. The latter asked why they did not target other groups that use the Force, like the Lanto. Ix replied that the Path also wanted them to stop using it, but the Jedi were the most powerful and prominent Force-using group. Which, yes, but if you don't know what the Leveler is, for one, it's terrifying. If you have not seen it, it's a terrifying abomination of a monster, and it feeds on the living Force, and it makes you into a literal husk. You become a husk. If you get touched, you become ash. That's what it is. It's only feeds on the Force, and the people who use Force, like mainly Jedi, essentially, is what they try to use it on mainly. But it's bad. It's a lot in the High Republic Phase 2 and Phase 3 stuff. Then we moving on to in 22 BBY, the Lanto Lycos was a member of the Nihil Marauders and their Children of the Storm Jedi Hunters, chosen by the Force sensitive for their Force sensitivity, who were experimented upon the Nihil scientist Baron Balone. Around that time, Lycos was attacked by the Nihil-controlled Occultation Zone by a Trandoshan Jedi Master Skier, who clawed out Lycos' left eye. If you don't know who Master Skier is, he's in the first book of the High Republic stuff, and he's awesome. He's also one of the main Jedi you see in the first wave of the High Republic comics, and seeing a Trandoshan Jedi is awesome. Not gonna lie, it's fantastic. He loses an arm and still goes fighting. It's great. He also, because he's a lizard species, he's also regrowing his arm, which is cool. So in that year, Lycos acted as a bodyguard to the Nihil envoy Efanar for a meeting with the Hutt Scarabad on the planet Abalam. Upon the arrival, Lycos led a Nameless on a chain off to the envoy ship to the meeting. There, he was attacked by Scarabad's enforcer, Lorma D, who dueled with a vine-wrapped sword until D disarmed him. When Jedi and Republic Defense Correlation forces arrived on the planet, Lycos released the Nameless. Lanto then attacked the forces himself, using barbed vines grown from his robes to attack Jedi Master Keeve Trinus and Jedi Knight Trellick. Oh. And then by leaping to a great height, Lycos caused Triac to crash the Jedi Vector starfighter. Lycos eventually located Trellick and tainted the Jedi after stabbing an RDC soldier through the chest with a vine. Lycos injured and restrained Trellick following the duel between the two, but the Lanto was shot through the chest by another RDC soldier. While Trellick erased his pain with the Force, Lycos revealed his prior encounter with Skier. Later, the Sephi wanderer Trey Sirik explained that Trellick and their Bond twin, Seret, that members of the group strong in the Force, such as the Lanto, were sought out by the Bolin to join the Children of the Storm and were subjected to his experiments. And fun fact, a lot of that stuff comes from the comics themselves, specifically in the Phase 1 stuff. And then we do have a little bit behind the scenes on the Lanto species as a whole. So the Lanto species first appeared in the comic story piece in Unity, written by Calvin Scott and illustrated by Andrea Brocardo, which was published in the first issue of the 2022 comic series, Star Wars The High Republic, on October 12th, 2022. Although Peace and Unity originally implied that the all-member organizations of the Convocation of the Force were religious groups, on October 1st, 2023, Scott clarified that the Lanto were a species, which was later confirmed by the Star Wars High Republic Character Encyclopedia, a reference book written by Amy Retru and Megan Kroos, and released on November 9th, 2023. Whew. So, that's the Lanto. That was a lot. So, with that being a lot it is, let's take a quick mid-break, and we'll finish out the rest of the religions when we come back.
All right.
You mind if we make one more stop before heading back? I need to run a Target.
100%. Let's RTT. You thinking of stuff for the dorm?
Yeah, my mom gave me some good tips on must-have essentials. We for sure need underbed storage, handheld iron for wrinkles, maybe even a mini Keurig for Mondays. Am I right?
All right, bet. Because I was already thinking about keeping my clothes looking fresh at college, so you better be sharing that.
Of course, man. Whatever I get on this run is yours too.
Twin.
But for real, let's go before they close.
Find everything you need for college at Target.
This episode is brought to you by Adobe Firefly, the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video generation. Built for today's creative process, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, and the timelines? Woo, yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Learn more at adobe.com/firefly.
All right. Welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about things going on with the podcast. And it's here where we thank our patrons. Thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much. If you'd like to join us, you can do so at patreon.com/DALorecast. Also, no, that's not right.
It's like, wait a minute.
The wrong fucking podcast. You can find us at patreon.com/holocronhistories. You can support the Dragon Age Lorecast.
You can support Dragon Age.
You can support us there.
Nothing's stopping you there too.
But this podcast is patreon.com/holocronhistories. That link's in the episode description. Click that. Don't listen to me. Another great way to support us is to leave us ratings and reviews on Apple or Spotify. And with that, I think that... Oh, no. Do we have one to read today? I'm just all kinds of confused.
It's all good. It's all good. We don't have any this week. It is a holiday week, so, it is what it is. So,
which I hope if we got you through a long drive to go visit your family, we're happy about that.
Oh, absolutely.
And anyway, last thing is come hang out with us on Discord, Bed and Friends Podcasting, Cups Podcasting, more Discord. You can find us all over there and just hang out with us and do that. And I think with that, that's all I have for the middle of the show. Stick around for the end for a special announcement.
What? There's a special announcement?
Yeah, you already know what it is.
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. I do. But, yeah. All right. Well, let's get back into more religions of the Force.
All right.
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Hey guys, today I'm interviewing my cat about his perfect bistro food. Percy, you seem to be a big Perfect Bistro fan. Care to comment? Totally. What do you like about it? You love the high-quality ingredients? And the delicious flavors, of course. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Listen to Percy, guys. Visit perfectbistro.com to try it for your cat.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
All right, we are now back, and now we are moving on to the Matukai, which was a religious group active during the High Republic era. Around 382 BBY, they were represented by the Convocation of the Force, led by Caldor Warren Val. When an envoy of the Yamakai applied for the representation of the Convocation, Val attempted to attack the Yamkubi, but they saw as a Darksider. When Elris Florent, the representative of the Disciple of the Will, suggested the Convocation should listen to the Yamkubi's application as they were owned at least, Val responded that Malachi owed the Yamaki nothing, and they defended the light. They were just adamant. It's like, yeah, they're evil. No, we're not going to deal with them. Pretty much all it is. The next is the Church of the Force. So the Church of the Force was another religious institution composed of the loosely affiliated worshippers of the Force who chose to follow the teachings of the Jedi Order, yet lacked Force sensitivity. During the High Republic, the Church of the Force was represented on the Convocation of the Force. And the Church of the Force was a faith which followers believed in the ideals of the Jedi Order. In simplest terms, the Church was essentially a non-Force sensitive equivalent of the Jedi Order, existed underground during the time of the Galactic Empire, which of the spiritual beliefs were strictly forbidden, despite the threat of the Imperial rule and the destruction of the Jedi Order and the end of the Clone Wars. The Church of the Force believed that the light of the Jedi would one day return to the galaxy. Which, hey, they did. It did.
It did.
They eschewed modern technology, instead created their own, and to bring themselves more in touch with nature. And common practice among them was to perform pilgrimages to return items such as kyber crystals to where they belong throughout the galaxy. One such pilgrimage was performed by Adar and fellow members of the Christophus. Thank you. I just see the, like, what?
Christophus.
Okay, that's
Christophus.
It's a planet for everybody to know.
Oh, Christophus. Then it is Christophus.
Okay, yeah, it's a planet. So, Yoko Dojo. The Temple of the Kyber, a temple located in the holy city of Jeddah, served as the home of the Church of the Force, which we see them in Jedi Survivor, right? That's what the all those members are, right?
Yes.
I want to say.
Which one? What?
In Jedi Survivor.
The Holy City, yes.
Yeah.
And we go to the Holy City in the Holy City of Jeddah is in Rogue One too. That's where you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, with their history, during the High Republic era in 382 BBY, during the High Republic era, the Church of the Force was represented on the Convocation of the Force on Jeddah by Kilin Tadara. At the time, the Church operated out of the sector of the Temple of Kyber that was assigned to them. Rosamond Solos was prefect of the Church's operations there, and Adjunt Kath Surapath lived in the temple. There. In 231 BBY, the Santeka clan was active in the Church of the Force on Naboo, which is cool because the Santeka clan were like one of the originators of hyperspace drives, which is really cool. The Church of the Force existed as an underground movement during the Age of the Empire, when the Jedi Knights were hunted to near extinction and worship the supernatural and prohibited by imperial law. One member of the faith was Lor Santeca, the explorer who did not believe in the imperial description of the so-called Jedi betrayal of the Galactic Republic. He spent years searching and preserving the history of the Jedi and the Empire had tried to suppress, and eventually helped Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi, in his own search for Jedi lore, which is really cool, and I believe that's mainly from the comics, if I'm not mistaken. It's a lot of comic stuff. During the New Republic era, the Church was much more free. After Skywalker vanished following the destruction of the new generation of Jedi, Santeca held a fragment of the map and showed where Skywalker was gone into exile, believing that the Jedi had returned there to be balanced with the Force. Santeca gave the map fragment to the resistant pilot Poe Dameron before Santeca was killed by Kylo Ren, Skywalker's nephew, and the man who was believed to have killed the new Jedi. However, following Santeca's death, Skywalker was located by a young Force-sensitive scavenger named Rey. And Santeca, so during the Imperial stuff is comics. Santeca, though, we first see him in Force Awakens. He's the old man who had that piece of the map at the very get-go of the movie. That was Lor Santeca.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, which we're supposed to, like, know that he is... Like, the movie treats it like we should know who he is. But I had no idea who he was.
Oh, yeah, nobody knew who he was until, like, the comics came out. And I was like, oh, this makes a little more sense now. And then some behind the scenes with the Church of the Force, though the parents of Lor Santeca and the Eternal Villagers, the Church of the Force first appeared in 2015 film Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Unleashed, or Force Awakens, sorry. I wish it was Force Unleashed. Force Awakens. It was identified as the Church of the Force in the reference books Star Wars, The Force Awakens, The Visual Dictionary, which provided some history for Santeca. Lucasfilm employee and author of the Visual Dictionary, Pablo Hidalgo, revealed in the interview that the church was originally conceived by George Lucas for Star Wars Underworld, a canon live-action Star Wars TV series. A canned live-action Star Wars TV series. The Church's story was put on hold before appearing in Star Wars Episode 7 of Force Awakens, directed by J.J. Abrams. So originally they were going to have an actual like live-action series before, you know, the films, or before the Disney stuff, which is interesting.
That is really interesting.
So, next we have the Sorcerers of Toon. The Sorcerers of Toon were a group associated with the light side of the Force and founded on the planet of Toon. Members of the Sorcerers who embraced the dark side of the Force were considered apostates and expelled. Artifacts relating to the dark side of the portion of the Sorcerers of Toon were stored in the archives of the Forbidden Artifacts, prohibited section of the Jedi Temple archives on the planet Coruscant. Oh, they're called apostates? Where have I heard that before? What?
Apostates? Unfamiliar.
Right? I don't know what that's from. What other dark fantasy series we know? So around 433 BBY, an apostate, Sorcerer of Toon, who has switched to the dark side of the Force, attacked a village on Kefex, where the future Jedi Master Vidar Mak lived. By 382 BBY, the Sorcerers were one of the several Force religions represented on the Convocation of the Force, seated on the moon Jeddah, alongside other groups as the Jedi Order, the Guardian of the Wills. The representative was Adept Tarna Miak. When Mak arrived on Jeddah, he was horrified to see a Sorcerer of Toon after he was experienced in childhood and confronted the Adept, only to learn from Padawan Mathia Cathli he was speaking to a Convocation representative. In 88 BBY, Jedi initiates Dooku and Sifo-Dyas snuck onto the Bogan collection and saw several artifacts, including at least one that belonged to the Sorcerers of Toon, with the latter wondering what the artifacts' origins were. And then we do have behind the scenes for them as well. The Sorcerers of Toon were first mentioned in the new Star Wars canon in the source book Disciples of Harmony, written by John Doon and James M. Swain, and published for Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars Force and Destiny role-playing game in 2017. The Bogan Collection, an entry in the Star Wars and Inside Intel article series published by StarWars.com on November 9th, 2021, misspelled the group's name as Sorcerers of Tunes with an S at the end. In Star Wars Legends continuity, the Sorcerer of Tune first appeared in the novel Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Saru, the first volume of the Star Wars The Lando Calrissian Adventure series, written by L. Neil Smith and published in 1983. So this is an old one. The Sorcerer of Tune were later first pictured in Jedi vs. Sith, The Essential Guide to the Force, a reference book authored by Ryder Wilhelm and published in 2007. So, the Sorcerer of Tune has a long history in lore, which is cool. And now we have the Guardian of the Wills. So the Guardian of the Wills, also known as the Guardians of the Kyber Temple, were a religious order and spiritual warrior monks that were founded by 483 in BBY in Jeddah City. On Jeddah, the traditionally handcrafted the light bow, a complicated form of the bowcaster native to Jeddah, which was the one used by Charut Imwi during the Battle of Scarif. So this is Rogue One stuff, by the way, which is really, really cool. The Guardians protected both the Temple of the Kyber and the pilgrim who visit it. Getting to their ancient history, a religious order separated from the Jedi Order and founded in 483 BBY. The Guardian of the Wills mantra preach about being one with the Force. As many other Force-based organizations, the Guardians had a presence on Jeddah City, where they handcrafted the native light bow per tradition. On Jeddah, they were protected by many temple treasures and held prisoners who were treated well. There were many who insulted the Guardians, but they continued their work all the same. Around 483 BY, a priest of the order named Sachar Rode had a force vision of a bright blueness which played a role in the departure from the Guardians, coming to believe that the force needed to be freed and that using their power in any way was wrong. Rode settled on the planet of Dalna, where he founded a cult called the Path of the Open Hand. Dun, 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 dun.
Interesting. Dun, dun, dun.
By 382 BBY, Oakland Viss, the captain of the guard for the organization, and the Guardian of the Wills were one of the several Force religious represented on the Convocation of the Force on Jeddah. In 382 BBY, the Guardians received special jurisdiction to guard the peace summit between the warring planets Irma and Irona. After the summit failed, the Guardians fought alongside the Jedi in the Battle of Jeddah, focusing on minimizing civilian casualties, and ultimately had several Guardians die in the conflict. After the battle, the Guardians stepped in to help rebuild Jeddah City, where it was for better, where they were the center of attention instead of the Jedi, who still faced resentment for their prior control over Jeddah City in the years past. Amid the uneasy peace and took over the city, the Guardians were visible in the streets instead of the hand. Reith Ploth of the Path of the Open Hand was imprisoned by the Guardians for inciting a riot that kicked off the battle. Ooh. And then, now into the Imperial era, which, yes, they are in the Imperial era, which you might know the specific person from this so-called religion in Rogue One. So into the Imperial era, the Guardians continued to defend visiting pilgrims to the Sacred Temple of the Kyber in Jeddah City, although they protected the temple where the Galactic Empire pillaged for the precious Kyber crystals that would be used in the new Death Star superweapon. The Guardian of the Wills remained around the fallen site. In 1 BBY, rebels Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor visited Jeddah in hopes to find an Imperial defector who was vital information for the Empire's new weapon. As they weaved through Jeddah City, the pair walked into a partisan raid on Imperial tanks, and as Imperial stormtroopers surrounded the rebels. However, the human Guardian, Surt Imwi, entered the scene and distracted the troopers. With the assistance of his friend Baz Malbus, assigned a Guardian of the Rails, Iwi downed all the stormtroopers, thereby saving the rebels. The rebels went on their mission. Imwi and Malbus join the Rebel Alliance and followed until their sacrifice at the Battle of Scarif, making use of the Guardians of the Will's teachings throughout. So this is the person you see who is blind, by the way. Chewie is blind, and says, I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. And he's constantly saying that throughout the entire film. And it is so freaking cool to see, because he doesn't like get shot, or I don't recall him like really taking fire all that much, like personally. Like it always misses him somehow. So it was really
interesting.
Cool. It's been a while since I watched Rogue One. I need to rewatch it, especially with Andor Season 2 coming out.
Oh yeah, we really do.
Yeah. Practices. So as part of the spiritual progression, a Guardian traditionally had to construct a light bow. The crafting process itself is required from the Guardian attain the necessary skill to combine handcrafted artisanry and technology, which is cool. And we do have behind the scenes. So in the early drafts of A New Hope, the name Wills referred to an early version of what became the Force. In the screenplay, the Star Wars Episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith, an unfilmed scene featured the spirits of Qui-Gon Jinn telling Yoda that he learned the secret to becoming a Force spirit after death from a shaman of the Wills. In another cut line, Yoda claimed that the secret to immortality was held by the ancient order of the Wills. Jinn claims to be repeated by the then canon databank and the encyclopedia on StarWars.com. And then later, canon interpretation of this scene was featured in Star Wars The Clone Wars, but had Qui-Gon point Yoda to the wellspring of life as the source of immortality instead, which is aka Season 6, The Yoda Chronicles, because that's all Season 6 is. So, yeah. Whew, that was a lot. But we went through it. We got through the Convocation and all the different religions of the Convocation. Oh, we did it.
We did do it. So much religion, so much different beliefs. I think I find the most interesting the ones who don't want the Force to be used.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's even more in Legends. Like, these are just the ones really from this canon book.
Yeah. This is just from the current canon so far.
It's really complicated. Well, thanks for bringing all of this episode. I did say if you stuck around for the end of the show that you would have a special announcement. Now, the special announcement is not necessarily happy, probably for our listeners. Maybe for some of them. Who knows? But sadly, not for Ben. It's not happy for Ben. Sadly, next week, our patron chat will be my last episode of the Holocron Histories. I have some life things going on that are going to require my attention elsewhere. Stay tuned if you're in the Cup server and everything. Stay tuned for exactly what those life things are. But this will unfortunately be my penultimate. There's a $10 word you can impress your family at Christmas dinner with. Penultimate. It means next to last.
Yep. And stay tuned for the patron episode next week, because we will announce the new person's going to take Austin's place.
Oh,
we do have someone.
We do have someone. All right, that's fun.
Oh, yeah, I haven't told you yet.
No. All right. Well, I'm going to find out after we end this episode.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yep. So, everybody, thank you for listening to Holocron Histories. And may the Force be with you. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for listening to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon vs. Legends. You can find us on the Robots Radio Discord at robotsradio.net, the Ben and Friends Podcast on Discord, and even at the Cups Podcast and More Discord. You can find us on Twitter at SWHoloHistories, and even email us at holocronhistories@gmail.com.